Today, as of July 8th, 2024, man, it was a good day for college football fans because EA College Football 25 finally released some head-to-head gameplay, essentially raw almost in its state when it came to Donovan Edwards going against a YouTuber named Bordeaux. Now, if you're in the college football community, you obviously know who Bordeaux is. At least I hope so, but outside of that, man, we're gonna go over some key things that I felt stood out when it came to this gameplay because they mentioned a lot of information that I thought was very helpful. And the first thing we're gonna talk about, man, is just the explosive gameplay. When you look at the movement overall, I felt like it was very quick, but it wasn't unrealistic. It didn't have a Sega Genesis or PS2 type of look to it. It just felt like the game was wide open, speed, explosive, violent. I liked how receivers could catch the ball and then potentially gain speed, or defenders would close the gap really fast in certain situations when they're trying to close and get those angles on guys. It was just a good look overall to see how the game looked as they were playing it live for us. And so I'm gonna have some clips coming across the screen, obviously, but I'm gonna go down the list. These are my 3 points about movement overall. And the first point is left stick running is sharp and smooth by itself. Now, this is apart from using any of the stick skill moves. So I'm talking about juke move, spin, jurtle, the hesitation, any of those moves, they're disqualified from this talking point just because I want to make sure we talk about the left stick. Donovan Edwards was using it when he was running the ball, specifically on his first touchdown, and that just looks so smooth getting into the end zone because he can make quick movements to the left, quick movements to the right, and still recover, and it looked natural. It didn't look like he lost speed in the process of doing that. Another key point within the movement is receivers post catch don't slow down as they did historically. I always felt like at Madden in previous games that if receivers caught the ball, they would get like that half-second slowdown mechanic that's in the game. And I don't know if you guys agree or disagree, but I always felt like the defense had just a half-second to catch up after a catch, and it just didn't feel realistic a lot of times when some people catch it and create separation because now they don't have to track the ball. They just simply have the ball and they can keep going. So that's another point that I like to see, especially on Donovan Edwards' touchdown pass that he threw to himself. He obviously had an ability to get that boost post catch, but with that though, it's still good to see that it has that explosive feel to it. The third point when it came to movement is a strong defensive line will be noticeable enough to have a 4-man rush. There was a defensive lineman from Michigan that just did a simple club swim and got his guy out the way pretty much at the snap of the ball, but it didn't look unrealistic. And so it really shows that, hey, like if you have a strong D-line, your quarterback is gonna have to make some moves. But on top of that, this is an honorable mention. Quarterbacks, even the slow ones, didn't look like they were just stuck in the mud. I felt like Madden 24 and 23, a lot of times the fast quarterbacks didn't get out of their breaks or get out of the pocket fast enough. And with this game, it looked like even somebody like Quinn Ewers, if he wanted to do a fake pitch and just get up the field 5 to 10 yards, most quarterbacks can do that and do it well. Now, we finally got a legit look at some of the option running outside of the gameplay deep dive, because in the gameplay deep dive, they only showed us the Texas A&M pitch pretty much that was shown multiple times in that blog itself. But with this, we got a chance to put footage to what they were talking about in that gameplay blog. And they mentioned the 3 types of option pitches, which is quick pitch, which you'll just tap LB or L1 depending on what system you're on, strong pitch, which is hold LB or L1, and then the fake pitch, which is a double tap. And then they mentioned that if you do double tap, your defender will have a chance to possibly be faked out by it. Now, of course, I imagine that the opposite of this could happen too, that if you fake pitch and the defender doesn't bite and he blows you up, pause, then you can potentially fumble the rock there. So I think that's a good look overall too, to have those options in place for the triple option or even just read options by itself. Now, we do have 3 more points to talk about when it comes to revamped passing, and look, I felt like they really showed this off in its entirety throughout this whole gameplay head to head. And something to note is that there were 3 different colors to differentiate a safe and accurate ball, and that's how I'm gonna go ahead and describe it, because that's how Scott OG was describing it in the gameplay deep dive. Blue is the color where you want to be hitting consistently, but it depends on the QB overall ratings, such as attributes, abilities, throw distance, etc., things like that, right? Now, when it comes to releasing it in the yellow, that means it's more uncertainty with the pass, but that doesn't mean it isn't catchable. But they did mention that if you do release it in the yellow, some of your receivers may drop the ball, or it may not lead the receiver as you want it to, or things of that nature. So still have a ball that you can still work with, but it still could be inaccurate. And the third color is red, and that indicates inaccuracy. Also, the longer you stay in the red, the greater the penalty. So look, they did mention that sometimes if you do throw a red pass that you could still get a catch, but sometimes the receiver will simply just drop the ball, and that's even if it's wide open. So that's something that I feel like a lot of people are going to have to get used to, because if they throw like a simple out route or a simple Texas route and nobody's checking the running back, but it's in the red and they drop it, a lot of people are going to have a problem with that. But I definitely want to know from you guys, how do you feel about that revamped passing system? Do you believe that if somebody is wide open, you throw a red pass and the receiver just simply drops the ball? Is that acceptable? Something that I thought was big that's gonna really differentiate a lot of teams is the tempo game. And I like that Bordeaux showed this off a little bit in his game versus Donovan Edwards, because we know that there will be two styles of tempo: no huddle and turbo tempo. Now, no huddle is going to be your traditional looks like the Texas Techs of the world, the Oklahomas of the world, where they're simply going to just not huddle up and they're going to get into their spots in that formation that they're in. They're going to look to the sideline and the play is going to be whatever the play is. You're going to hold a button on your controller, and then from there your offense will get up to the line super quick. But with this, the main benefit is to be able to snap the ball with the play that's already given to you there. Instead of going through a bunch of checks and trying to audible things, you'll be able to catch the defense off guard, hopefully. And the devs did call out that some of the linebackers were out of position when Bordeaux was doing it, and Donovan Edwards did say he felt the pressure from Bordeaux when he was using the turbo tempo. So it's one of those things that it was his first time playing, and he noticed like, yo, I can't really keep up with this. Something that was really good about this head-to-head was the wear and tear information we got from Scott OG. And I gotta say, man, he talked about 4 main points of recovery in this, and he talked about per play, per quarter, per half, which is going to be the most significant in game, and per game if you're going to be playing Dynasty on a week-to-week basis. And I think that was important information to have, because there's a screenshot when Donovan Edwards was in the 4th quarter and he was taking his player out, and I wanted to make note of this. He was pretty much -7 in speed category. Now obviously this was within the last minute of the 4th quarter, so the wear and tear was already on his body, but to have that hit to his player was pretty significant, and I was surprised by it. Now I wonder how it affects everything within the game and around the game, but I'm curious to know what your opinions of it are, knowing that you can start the game with 98 speed and potentially end on 90 speed or 89 speed with one of your players, which is pretty crazy to me. Our second key point we want to take note of when it comes to wear and tear is knowing what the player reticle system looks like for us. So when you zoom in on the player reticle, on the right side is our stamina, and on the left side are the indicators of the most hurt part of your body. That doesn't mean injured, it just means hurt, it's in pain, and it will notice. Now you can go into the depth chart obviously to get more details about other parts of your body that'll be hurt, but as far as what we get on the field, you can see that per player at the quarterback position, and then also if you go into LT or L2, you could then see it through the coach's visions for your whole team with that. So I think that can really help with game managing and knowing if you need to sub somebody out or you're just going to power through it. Our third key point in wear and tear is that we got the information on what rating actually impacts wear and tear, and that's the toughness rating. So if you have a player with a 99 toughness rating, he won't be as vulnerable as somebody who has maybe a 68 toughness rating and things of that nature. So to know that there's an actual rating tied to this, we can channel this, along with there are some abilities that are in place to help you mitigate some of the wear and tear that you can add to some of your players. We also have some small facts that we can talk about with this, and one is that the top 100 players got to handpick mental abilities to match their play style in real life. So Donovan Edwards talked about he had a mental ability that makes it better for him to play on the road, because statistically last season he had better games on the road most times versus at home, which allowed him to play better in those environments. So it's just something like that, those little details for those players to get it. But outside of that, The rest of the roster is going to mainly just be off of stats, attributes, things of that nature. But for the top 100, they're really going to stand out. And so if that's something they're going to take into the future, I think that really matters, because that means our All-Americans are going to really feel special when we get our hands on them. My personal takeaways from seeing the gameplay is that it felt explosive, it looked fun, and just genuine reactions from Bordeaux and Donovan Edwards. They were having fun with the game, and I think that's more important than anything. It didn't look like it was scripted or whatever the case may be. They were trying new formations, playing different ways. They were running the ball, passing the ball. I thought it was just a good look overall. So from my perspective, I think it's a good look overall that we got a chance to see just some basic head-to-head gameplay. Also, Bordeaux uploaded his perspective with a little bit more footage that you can go and see on his channel. But with that, man, dude, I'm excited. We are less than 10 days away from College Football 25. I think it's a good time to just go ahead and make sure we're looking at every bit of detail that we can get before the game actually releases. And hey, once it's in our hands, it's gonna be crazy. Let me know what school you're gonna be playing with first. Look, we may need to have a vote on where our wide receiver is going for the first road to glory in this one, man, because I don't know if I want to go to any of the Power 4 schools. But hey, we'll talk about it in the future. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, turn on those notifications, and hey, I'll see you guys in the next one.